Are we okay now? Okay. All right, Dr. One Pat.
Dr. Magnich, you asked the question, how much are we paying for this contract for the Teton campus? So the government, it's a contract between the government and Cortec. And what we learned is that it was taken over by a nonprofit group called Phoenix IDA, and that they had contracted Cortec to handle the maintenance of the schools. The government pays $9 million a year for the Tejan facility, the central facility, and the annex that we have here where maintenance and the supplies and materials are at. So it's $9 million a year. That's what the government pays.
Okay, thank you, Dr. One Pat. Yes, Mayor?
No, I just have a quick question. So, you guys had just said the priority right now is to fix Tizan High School so that we can go back to the plan that was originally decided for the school year, right? Okay.
Yes.
So you mentioned a number of times we have 100 construction workers currently working at Tizan High School right now. My only question, and it's a very simple question, why were these assessments made during the summer? And thank you. Why weren't they made during the summer? And I think that if they were, we wouldn't be in the predicament that we are right now. We hear everybody here. I think it's clear that we don't want redistricting. Okay, let's not think about that. If the plan is to make the school better and to get rid of these demerits, why weren't they looked at prior to combining the two schools?
Dr. One Pat?
Yes. In the
Quiet,
do you want
please.
to hear an answer or not?
Please let her speak.
So this is really very important. The mayor has asked a very important question. And in the meeting that we had with Cortec's attorney and our attorneys and several members of the board, the principal indicated that for many years, she has been submitting work orders to have the facility, fixed or repaired. Okay, wait 1 second. So our guys have been really going in there doing as much as they can. However, in the contract, the way it is written is that responsibility not ours, the responsibility lies with Cortec. And that was confirmed in the meetings that the attorneys had, showing that they are fully responsible. If any work is to be requested by the school or the Department of Education that is in addition to what they currently do provide, they would charge us. If anything in the school they consider that has been abused or misused, they will charge us. So that was something that we all learned from the contract that we did not know. What we did establish after that meeting is that once we get the school open, we want to sit down with them, our attorneys to sit down with them and renegotiate this maintenance contract, because currently we are at their mercy, because they would charge us for labor, they would charge us for the materials, and they would charge us 15% above that. So that's where we stand right now. And then, like I said to you early on, when they gave me a scope of work to be done that needs to be done at the school, and we asked for a price quote, they were not able to give it to us as of today. But I took the risk of saying, proceed with the work. I need for you guys to complete work, because I need to get our children back into school sooner rather than later. And that's the situation today, as you know, as how everything has transpired from that time on of the closure to today? Of
Thank you.
course.
I have to make one comment. If I can just make one clarification. You know, when the schools were closed, the next day, a meeting was held, as Dr. Wonpat said, with the principals, with our maintenance people, with Cortec. Three of our board members were present because we wanted to know what was going on and what the discussion was going to be like. And we discovered something that we never knew. The original contract between the government of Guam, and the company was amended, was changed in 2014. There were changes made to the original contract. And the owner of the company, Mr. Ho, told us when we asked him about the repairs that Cortec were responsible for, he said, "We are not the owner any longer of the contract. The contract is owned by a nonprofit organization, and the nonprofit organization simply contracts with Cortec to handle the monthly caretaking of the Tijan property." What he said is Cortec is not really the owner of the lease that was originally entered into between his company and the government of Guam. It's important that everyone recognize that the lease is not with the Department of Education. The lease is with the government of Guam. The Department of Education was never part of the lease, never signed the lease agreement, never had the authority to sign the lease agreement, but were supposedly to be the beneficiary of the original lease agreement. But the agreement changed over time, and the terms of the agreement changed over time. In the last iteration of the agreement, it says that DOE, if it has to make improvements or repairs that it is responsible for at the schools, must use Cortec to make the repairs and pay Cortec for their services, plus a 15% rate for overhead costs. That means that DOE can't go out and on bid for contractors. That means that DOE has to use Cortec according to the current agreement. And that agreement, according to the attorneys, must be followed. So that sort of changes the relationship between the government of Guam and the company that was originally the leaseholder, and also impacts the school system. So like Dr. Wonpat says, her hands are tied in terms of making the improvements. She can only use Cortec to do repairs that DOE has to pay for, even though DOE might want to go out on bid, which is the current procurement law of the government of Guam. This agreement apparently supersedes the procurement law of the government of Guam. And DOE had nothing to do with that, by the way, nothing to do with it. No amendments to the contract were part of DOE's responsibility. We didn't even know about it until this was disclosed to us. Excuse me, it's important for you to understand this. So right now, Dr. Wonpat has been working very closely with the agent for this nonprofit group, and I don't know who they are, but they are named in this subsequent contract. She's working very close with Cortec because Cortec works for this nonprofit group, apparently, to fix things at TGen. And she said it's like an open cost. We don't know what it's going to cost. because they have not provided a cost breakdown. I'm sure it's hard for them to do that because they're looking for things that have to be repaired, trying to meet the requirements of public health. So we will only know after the fact, after everything is fixed. We'll have a bill from Cortec, which will say, this is how much we spent in order to fix things that in the contract should have been done by DOE. We're doing our part, but we're doing your part too. And you have to pay us for your part, plus 50% overhead costs. The board is going to have to, at some point, deal with the Guam legislature and ask them to help for that additional cost. Because it's really not budgeted for in the current budget. But it's going to get done, and then we're going to ask our policymakers to please help us so we can pay that bill when it becomes due. It's going to be due soon. The other point I want to emphasize is that really our goal, please understand everybody, our goal is to open the 2 schools at Tijan as soon as possible. That's our goal, the board. And I think that's the superintendent's goal. The other options are not under consideration at this time and may not be for some time. But we do have challenges we have to meet, and these include having sufficient number of teachers and one-to-one aides, and all those other areas are very critical for us. And everyone within the organization is trying very hard to find ways to cover those needs. I'm pleased that Dr. Juan Pat agreed that our teachers should be given the opportunity to cover during their prep periods if they wish to and be compensated. To keep the classes going and to make sure there's a proper teacher in every classroom. And we thank our teachers for that. In addition, she's trying to look at every avenue of satisfying the one-on-one aid issue for our special education students. This is not easy because we do not have enough trained special education professionals on the island to meet that need. But she's exploring all options. Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
Madam Chair,
And then,
the question from the Vice Mayor of Jigo was not answered. Why was it not done during the summer, and even from the public? When we had our board meeting on July 24, and as I look at the documents that were presented to us, I know that we're not ready. I asked this question, that I don't think we're ready to open August 10. I asked that. That's why I requested for a special meeting on August 7, and you were not, the superintendent is not on island.
Mary,
The
that's
special meeting, then we will provide a declaration of readiness. All 39 schools had the declaration of readiness. Simon Sanchez, it was acknowledged by the safety liaison, validated by the principal, validated by the ESCL representative, but recommended by the deputy ESCL, approved by Superintendent of Education where there was an acting. Then also signed by the safety officer. Question, our two boxes. Our school campus will be ready to open for school year 26-27 for daily instruction. X means yes. Was it ready? No. Because what they found there, so that means when they check mark this and they validate and they put their signature, that means every single room, restroom in that school, it was check marked. I'll give you an example that was check marked, and they did it on August 1st. The school opened August 10th. Elementary school at Dedido that was used for election, a primary election. A voter went to use the restroom and it was covered with trash bag, and the toilet is on the floor. Is that ready? But it was signed. My school is ready to open. That's why my question is, and I'm still not convinced that we're ready. So why did they went ahead and sign that the school was ready to open when the issues at next door were not fixed? It went from the school safety liaison officer, validated by the principal, validated by the ESEL representative, recommended by the deputy superintendent of ESEL, approved by the superintendent of education, and it's from, yeah, and then check mark, our school campus will be ready to open for school year 26-27, and they all signed before August 10. So that is that, Mr. Vice Mayor, yes, it wasn't checked, because if you get the document of the school readiness, all 39 schools I have, and I read every one of them, because I know I'm not convinced that they're ready. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead. We know that this is an unlimited cost we have right now, basically a blank check. It will affect the budget we are given by the senators for this. Do you foresee a period down the road if the Senate does not appropriate the money to give this to Cortec to fix it, and to our extra fees for the maintenance who are working overtime, our school aides who are working overtime, and our teachers? Do you foresee that if this budget doesn't get reimbursed, that there will be layoffs or anything affecting our staff and our teachers in the campus, increments, freezes, hiring freezes? How does this affect the personnel?
Currently, what we're going to do is that with the lapses that we have, that the board has approved, is that we will pay Cortec for the work, to be done, and the filling of the positions, and not filling, but covering for the vacancies, we're going to use that salary to be able to pay the teachers who are covering. Any other additional positions that we have would also come from our current budget up until October 1st. When we met with the legislature at the time on our budget, they've indicated that yes, we will continue to work and use our lapses to continue to use our existing budget, our current budget up to September 30th, and then continue to use the new fiscal year budget. I did tell them that should we run out of the lapses, which I would have to come back to this board to do another adjustment in the spend plan, because now I'm going to be using money to be able to pay for Cortec to do the work, that our last resort will be to go to the legislature, then to request for a supplemental budget before any action can be taken, like you've indicated before, which is very similar to what is happening right now in CNMI, that they don't have the money, then they're going to go 4 days of school week and the possibility of laying off people. That's what I want to avoid.
So Tim, if you recall at our last meeting, I asked the superintendent at the regular meeting in September to resubmit the priority for the lapses so that all of these expenses can be covered. So whatever they identified as the priorities for those lapse funding will be reprioritized to put this so that all of these are paid first. At the beginning of every year, when the budget is approved, the superintendent takes into consideration and presents to the board the spend plan for the new fiscal year. What often happens is all the warm bodies and all the required funding necessary to operate is front-loaded. So all of those are covered before anything else. So if there's a shortage later in the fiscal year, because you can't claim a shortage October 1, because there's traditionally millions of dollars that lapse because of delayed hiring, contracts are delayed. So we will have to monitor that into the fiscal year to make a determination as to how much additional funding is necessary.
Madam Chair, we got to this point because, frankly, the superintendent wasn't doing her job. Madam Superintendent, is Tizan High School and Simon Sanchez High School, as it presently is in Tizan, two separate schools?
Yes.
Then why did you allow a sanitary permit for Tizan High School to be used for Simon Sanchez High School? If they are two separate schools, the inspection of the pictures that you received, that we all received, about deficiencies in the area that Simon Sanchez High School was put into was not even being used by Tizan High School. And so therefore, that section of the school, which became Simon Sanchez, should have had its own inspection before school started. Now what's going to happen? Tizan High School, and you got to thank Simon Sanchez High School, because if it wasn't for them, this would never have come about. I remind you, Madam Superintendent, that you're saying September 8th, we may open school again. But I also remind you that because you combined Tizan and Simon Sanchez High School into one under a combined so-called sanitary permit, it is now going to be treated by public health as a new school. Therefore, it has to have zero demerits before you can even reopen. 100 workers, someone said, they're impressed. I'm not impressed. Because why? These 100 workers, 1,000 workers could have been doing this job over the course of the school year when maintenance was needed. But we did not. We did not. Superintendent, you're worried about lawsuits. You know very well that the 14 points of adequate education has never been met since its inception. Why worry about a lawsuit when we never had enough certified teachers, we never had complete air conditioning, we never had the proper health and sanitation in the schools, despite the fact that schools passed inspection? These are all areas of that 14-point Adequate Education Act that have never been met. So when you say you're worried about lawsuits, why now? Why now? It's going to come whether you like it or not. And in fact, if you don't answer that complaint about a Simon Sanchez High School being deprived of their special education needs, in a few weeks, that lawsuit is going to come. And I'm telling you, this reminds me of the lawsuit that was filed about the Agada Johnston School, the lawsuit that was filed about the elevators at Southern High. May I remind you, Madam Superintendent, that you were then the acting superintendent when this complaint came about. And what did you do? You just put it on your table and said, let the next superintendent take care of it. You didn't even have the courtesy to let the board know that you had a complaint in your hands about these two complaints. So what happens? A lawsuit happens. And now what? We have to pay. We have to pay the attorneys. And we're all rejoicing because, wow, we won the lawsuit. We didn't win the lawsuit. The child or the children that were in the lawsuit lost the lawsuit. They lost. There's no pride or happiness in the board or even GDOE to be happy because we were able to get the cost of the attorneys reduced. That's not a win for us. It's a slap in the face of GDOE. Madam Superintendent, I'm suggesting to you that if you consider Tijan High School and Simon Sanchez High School as two separate schools in this location, you are going to need two separate sanitary permits for them to reopen. They cannot, in my opinion, reopen under one sanitary permit because if something happens again in Simon Sanchez that is a demerit and they come to inspect and it's closed under one sanitary permit, you're going to have to close Tijan High School as well. And I don't think that that is what we want. And like I said, yes, the board has questioned you, at least I have, questioned you about what has been going on. You remember the day you testified in front of the legislature and you told the legislature there'll be no more double session with JFK and Simon Sanchez because we're going to merge Tijan High School with Simon Sanchez High School. You didn't even have the courtesy to tell the board that that was your plan. And when I asked you about it at a meeting right here, you said you couldn't lie to the Guam legislature. Well, you couldn't lie to the Guam legislature, but you could lie to this board and not tell us that this was your plan. And what did you do? A few weeks later, you said, okay, we're not going to merge the two schools. They're going to coexist as two separate schools. I reminded you then that if you're going to coexist as two separate schools, are you sure that the facilities are adequate, enough classrooms, enough facilities, the gym, the cafeteria, everything is in place? Well, obviously, in our meeting on July 24th, you said 100% all schools are ready to open. I applauded you and I said, okay, 100%, but I also asked, what is your plan B if something happens? That was June 24th. August 10th, the school opened, not even on a piece of toilet tissue did you come up with a plan B as to what would happen. So what happens 3-4 days later? We shut down the schools, 2 schools, because, well, we don't have to even repeat all of that. Because of your inaction and lack of responsibility to take care of these matters, Madam Superintendent. And I know that you say you're trying. But Jesus Christ, if Cortec is paid $9 million a year in maintenance. Where is it going? Central office? Oh, the other schools? So why is Stephen? Because they're here, occupying that space, being a school that the principal testified to or mentioned that she's been submitting work orders for roof leaks, for repairs, for toilets. Where does it go? I know it doesn't come to the board, because if it came to the board, you can be assured it's going to go to you. We're going to be here for quite some time, and we're going to hear from the public as to what we as a board are going to do. Yesterday, Madam Superintendent, I stood with our sharks. And I'm shaking now because I heard them. I heard the sharks yesterday. For 10 plus years, they've been told, be patient. Wait your turn. Next year, Madam Superintendent, yesterday their voices said, we're tired of waiting. We deserve better. We are not temporary. Madam Superintendent, these aren't complaints. These are truths. Our students are asking for the basic dignity of a classroom they can call their own. I looked into their faces, some of them are here today. I looked into their faces, they're young, they're determined, they're wearing their shark blue with pride. I also saw frustration. But more than that, I saw hope. Hope that someone would finally listen. I saw kids who get up every day, go to borrowed campuses, shared gyms and labs, and still show up to lead. You can see how many times we brought Simon Sanchez High School up here to congratulate them, even though they were in double sessions for so many years. That goes to show you that if they had their own campus, the sky's the limit, because they'll soar with what they can do. Yesterday, their faces told the story no report ever can. These kids have sacrificed normalcy. No home field, no home campus, no place to hang their banner. They've been through borrowed classrooms, split schedules, and being out of school without a home. And yet graduate, enlist, they become nurses and teachers and leaders. Like I said earlier, imagine if they had their own place. Imagine what they could do if we matched their perseverance with action. And then I looked at us leaders that were there yesterday. Many of them were from the Guam legislature. For too long, the voices of those leaders, and maybe even myself, have been empty promises. We're working on it. Funding is coming. Our faces, as I looked at those senators and candidates who want to be senators, were smiles. Smiles. But as soon as the cameras left, the promises vanished just like that. Yesterday, the students reminded me leadership isn't smiling. Leadership is showing up when it's hard. I left that protest with my head down, Madam Superintendent and Madam Chair. Not in shame of our students, in shame of us. We cannot ask our children to keep persevering if we refuse to. That's why today you're going to see that I'm asking the federal government, the Department of War, the Department of Interior, our congressmen, to open unused northern Guam military facilities, including Camp Blas, or any facility that can be used right now for the use of Simon Sanchez High School. It's a long shot. It's a long shot. But it's a shot worth taking. Because our kids took the shot. They showed up yesterday. Now it's our turn. I'm thinking out of the box. And I'm giving this option, and I mentioned this at our meeting last Tuesday, that I'll take a phrase from President Trump, the big, beautiful bill, I add ding behind it. Big, beautiful building sitting on Camp Blas Road, hardly even being used. That can, if we really wanted to, ask, and I'm asking, that it be used for Simon Sanchez High School. Our people, your ancestors, my ancestors, their grandfathers and grandmothers have persevered for so many years giving to the military. Now it's our turn to ask. And if they say no, well, at least we ask. And if we don't ask, we'll never know. And so, as a board member, we all have to try to figure out what we need to do to get Simon Sanchez High School and Tijan High School whole again. I'll tell you this right now, Madam Superintendent and Madam Chair, I will not support a decommissioning of Tijan High School, nor will I support redistricting for any high school. Because instead, we all know our reasons. So I don't know about the other board members, but I think you have to bring this subject up again after you listen to what our students have to say today. We need to listen to their voices. It's time that we do. Because without them, there is no reason for this board to exist. And so, we have to do the right thing. We have to do the right thing. If the popular thing is to, let's just close the school, and there's a saying, the popular thing to do is not always the right thing to do. And the right thing to do is not always the popular thing to do. I choose to do the right thing. Thank you, Chair.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I have a question. This morning, Dr. Wampad, I heard you on Patty's show, and she asked you about what the status, whether, the facilities next door are going to be finished and everything. You said you haven't heard from them. Why do you have to wait for them to call you? Call them. When he was here, Mr. Hall was here on that meeting, and not all of us board members, because they said you cannot have three, more than three. Well, I think we need to look at the law. The law says, I think it's elected voting members. And Mr. Hall was told, do your job, stop making profit. Now, you call him. Call him, don't wait for him to call you. Next thing, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to amend the continuation of the August 18, 2026 agenda to move number 9, which is participation, up before the executive committee, because I want to hear from those that wanted to say something to the board. That's my motion.
I second that motion.
On the motion, any objection?
Call for it, Madam Chair.
The participation.
Can I respond?
And under
Can I
the
respond?
procedures,
Madam Chair, may I respond to the accusations or
okay,
misinformation?
hold it, please. Yes, Dr. Wampat.
There are several misinformation that's going out. And the question is, which you all need to know, and the question was, why is it that because we have two campuses, why is it that we do not have two separate permits? That was the question that I did ask Public Health. And Public Health response is that TGen holds the permit for a year. Therefore, they're treating it as one permit. That wasn't my decision. I wanted them to do two separate inspections. That wasn't the case. So that's the first misinformation. And for those of you who are saying it's a lie, you can call Public Health and verify to validate what it is that I'm sharing with you. The second is, it is not September 8th that I'm saying that this would end. It is, I'm looking at August the 31st. September 8th, if the report was read, it says that that's what was recommended by the principals if they're going to do a double session. The third is the 14 points. I've been speaking to the senators about the 14 points since I came in. I've spoken to our attorneys to provide input and language for the legislature to consider also to amend so that we won't have these lawsuits. And yes, I'm worried about lawsuits because when we came in, we had 11 lawsuits to date. And I surely don't want more lawsuits, and we have to end up usually losing more monies to continue to pay for these lawsuits. So in that vein, I've also asked the senators to consider other language in the bill, even about lawsuits, whether there should be arbitration, whether there should be some time frame to be able to address these issues. When this whole question came up about the rules and regulations, the former superintendent, Mr. Fernandez, asked for 5 years before it goes into full implementation so that GDOE can catch up, because they didn't have the money to be able to do all that. And yes, when that issue came up about double session, that was at the request not just of the board to end double session, it was also a request by the legislature. There was an outcry to end it. Brought that subject up to the principals then to decide to discuss. And I know the year before that, the EC answer was to continue with double session. Well, this time they didn't. They made the hard decision to be able to have them co-locate in one place because they want to preserve not just the school identity for the children, but rather that they're able then to continue separately. And we granted that at their request. And then lastly, is that when the board had asked, because of all these concerns about teacher vacancies, school one-to-one aides and busing, the options came from the principal. And the principals, yes, they said that the least disruptive of all of them, of all these options, if we weren't going to continue opening our schools next week, but rather at the end of the year. But my goal and their goal as well, and I agree, and that's my recommendation at the end of my report here, is to recommend to the board that we remain status quo with the hopes that Monday, yes, Monday, to be able then to open the schools. And calling every day, I'll have you know, Dr. Ujoa has been speaking with Mr. Kim on a daily basis to get updates, and the updates is continuance of what it is that they're doing, and when there are completion, they will let her know exactly what has been completed. So there's been a lot of follow-up, maybe not by me personally, but definitely by our Deputy Superintendent of Facilities and Maintenance.
But Madam
And to think and
Superintendent,
to be accused about Simon Sanchez, let me tell all of you who don't know, and you were all probably just in elementary and middle school, that before I left the legislature, I authored the law to build Simon Sanchez High School. That's what I did by law. But the only one that can implement that law to make it happen would have to be the executive branch. To accuse me to say that I'm not concerned about children, I am. All my children are public school products. My grandson with a disability is also a product of our public school. So yes, the public school children are my top priority. You are my top priority. And that's why we're working diligently in the hopes to get you back to school next week. So for me to be accused of not working, I take offense to that.
Thank you, Dr. Wampat. Thank you. All right.
Superintendent, you also have to remember that if you want the schools to open next Monday, you need to get public health to give you those zero demerits. Because if you get it from public health, even if you scream to here to the high heavens, you ain't gonna open the school Monday. So you need to provide the public. Don't just say I'm looking, you're forgetting that there are other agencies involved that you need to get clearances from.
I'm not arguing with you on that issue because yes, after the work is completed, we will call public health to come in and also inspect the schools, re-inspect the schools, because yes, they can't open unless they are given the permit to continue.
Right, right.
You're not getting any arguments with me there because we are going through public health.
Thank you. We're going to go to public participation, and the procedure is here. If anyone wishes to testify, I have the sign-up list here. One at a time. You'll come forward. You will have 3 minutes to make your statement before the board. I'm going to ask our Vice Chair, Dr. Okada, to assist with the public participation portion of the meeting. Dr. Okada. So the first person who wishes to testify is Charlie Balbastro from the Guam Youth Congress. Charlie, come on up.
Are you ready?
Thank you.
Once your 3 minutes is up, we just ask you to finish your sentence so we can move on to the next, okay?
Okay, thank you. Half day to our educators, our board members, students, alumni, and fellow parents, including faculty, staff, and administrators of their respective high schools. For those that haven't heard about me, I'm Representative Charlie Babasio from the 35th Guam Youth Congress, and I'm always proud to say a former JROTC cadet. and a proud alumni of Southern High School of the class of 2025. I'm proud to stand before all of you today for this most controversial experience and this very important meeting. This has been one of the saddest things we have ever experienced in our lives. Throughout almost 2 weeks of not going back to school, how sad is this to have our students not get the best experience they wanted in Simon Sanchez and teach in high school? How sad is this to have our current administration not care for us? How sad is this that schools fail inspection? And how sad is this that schools fail inspection? That students have to look under screens all day. How sad is that? And it's very unthinkable. Guam, when are you gonna do your job to provide better care for our schools? Do you rather wait until it's too late, or do you rather wait until it's too controversial? What is it gonna be, Guam? Combining Simon Sanchez and Tejan doesn't seem right. Like, come on. When are these students ever themselves? School shouldn't be about politics. It should be a home of learning and to grow physically, socially, and mentally. Don't treat schools as our political stomping grounds. Treat it like we belong there. And being part of this one entire family as a whole. Guam, please make our schools a priority in the government. Students, parents, faculty, staff, and administrators need to get back on their A game. And they need to get back to work, to do what they need to do to inspire this young generation, to lead the island, and to pursue a career. We're not going to be here standing up and speak all day about our government. We all here have to be getting back to work. We need to get on our A game and get late. The school closure of SARCs has been happening for over the past decade, and this has never stopped. All of us students, parents, and school personnel have been making the sacrifices for these learners to learn despite this closure and double session crisis. Constructions for our public school campuses should have been done throughout the summer in the first place, without hesitating to even go back to online learning. This is very disappointing to some students, some parents, and some of our alumni, like myself, to have been sacrificing through these challenging times.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next one is Clarissa Perez.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Clarissa Perez.
She's coming. I guess she's not here. All right, she can come back. Let's continue.
Alyssa Anderson.
Good afternoon. My name is Alyssa Anderson, and I'm a senior at Simon Sanchez High School. If you do the math, that means that class of 2027 has never stepped foot onto our actual campus. When we were freshmen, we were promised and told that Sanchez would be rebuilt by the time we reach our senior year. We're seniors now, and instead of walking through the doors of the school we were promised, we're stepping onto a completely different campus. Why has it taken this long? How much longer will it take? Because changing our environment does not change the situation. You say redistricting is not an option, that you didn't bring it up, but I've never heard you deny it until this day and this meeting. And that hurts us all the same. To my understanding, you believe that double sessions are not effective, but I want to remind you of what Simon Sanchez students have accomplished despite this. In the last school year alone, being 2025 to 2026, Simon Sanchez has won an estimated 40 trophies, titles, and awards, including championships, MVP awards, and on and off island recognitions. And as a participating student, I can tell you that JRTC alone has won approximately 87 trophies and awards over the last 4 years. The last 4 years being double session. I remember competing off island when a judge asked me where I was from. When I said Guam, she lit up. She loved the students from Guam. That's not a memory you can redistrict. That will always be Simon Sanchez. I understand. I understand that you want to end double session. I understand that you want students to have more instructional time, and I understand that you do not want two schools sharing one campus. But it's not about what you want anymore. It's about what we need as Simon Sanchez. Because in all honesty, I'm disappointed. My friends are disappointed, and our families are disappointed. And this isn't the first time we've had something like this taken away from us. In elementary, we lost our promotion because of quarantine, COVID-19. In middle school, we lost our promotion because of Typhoon Mawar. And now, in high school, are we going to lose our graduation because of something else that is completely outside of our control? So once more, I will ask you, Board of Education, why has it taken you so long, and how much longer will it take? Because we deserve a school of our own. We deserve a community of our own. We deserve a chance to graduate from school we spent 4 years putting our time, money, and effort and trust into to call our own. I truly hope you take what we say today into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Madam Chair, could we ask the speakers, please, to tell us their name when they come up? Because I'd kindly like to hear them. I know, but I just didn't hear it. I apologize. Thank you.
Princess. Carayon. After her is Ariane Alban. Just get ready. Okay, you can begin. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. I am Princess Casey Carrion from Simon Sanchez. I am currently a senior. I want to start off by saying I do apologize if I come as disrespectful, but in all honesty, I think you guys should be the one apologizing to us. It is not fair that I don't get to go to a campus that I couldn't even call home. I've been moving from school, everybody here has been moving from school to school, village to village, but not enough energy to bring us back home in Jigo. It is not fair. Because I'm sorry, just like Dr. Wampat, during your interview, you mentioned you feel for us. How would you feel if I moved you around? How would you feel if you lost your employees because of where you worked? How would you feel if I separated you from everything you knew? How would you feel if I took away everything you worked so hard for? How would you feel if you told me how badly my choices hurt you? And all I can tell you is, I assure you, I assure you. Because back in when the protests in Jigo, in the Jigo gym, that's what I kept hearing from every single person. I assure you, but there was never an actual statement saying, I will go back. With all due respect, it's so hard to put so much trust into something for it to turn nothing. The parents are tired, the teachers are tired, the aides are tired, our own principal is tired of what is happening to a school she is proud to say she is a part of. Most importantly, students are tired. How come we have a voice to speak, but we don't have the choice to make? So please bring us back home, not at JFK in Tamuning, not at Tizan, but to Sanchez in Jigo. I want to go home to 96929. Again, I apologize if this speech upsets you, but hopefully from this speech you will understand how I feel as a student as well. And I'd love to point out, I love how there's always an estimated time of how much we need to be in school hours, but there's never an estimated time when our school will be rebuilt. That's all I have to say, and I would just like to say I am disappointed. If your intentions are to redistrict, then reassign and re-elect. That's all I have to say. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ariane? After her is Mariana Hernandez.
Good afternoon, Superintendent and fellow board members. I am Ariane Alburo, a student and senior at Simon Sanchez High School. Around February this year, talks of Simon Sanchez reallocating to Season High spread around our school. All of a sudden, Sharks found a reason to feel anxious after experiencing a sense of stability in JFK. We had many questions. We were unsure if we will fully merge with Season or keep even an ounce of our own identity. Around that same time, an education town hall hosted by Senator Vince Borja was announced to the student body. Everyone expected the board to be there. So we prepared our questions, our testimonies, so they may finally be put to rest and we will have answers. On the 19th of February, we Sharks walked into the JFK gym, ready to speak our piece, and found that only two people, Senator Vince Borja and Dr. Mitchnich, sat at the panel. You, the superintendent, the head of the entire Guam Department of Education, were nowhere to be seen. The other board members were nowhere to be seen. A few months later, we were informed at another town hall meeting that we would be coexisting with Tietzen. Not asked, but informed. We had no choice. So we did what Sharks do. We pivoted. We looked for ways to make it work. We helped our teachers move their large equipments all the way in Tietzen, approximately 10 miles from our homes in Chico. Truth be told, the move to Tietzen could have worked if only the campus was ready for our occupation, but it was not. And now we Sharks face yet another risk of being moved around. It is incredibly disappointing to be moved around as easily as mail. So please, we humbly ask you to give us the stability we were lacking for years. Do not dissolve Simon Sanchez. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hafaday, we have a joint statement, so all three of us are going to be speaking together. Oh, thank you. Let me start my timer so I make sure that we're on the right board. Buenas and Hafaday, it's Mariana Hernandez, Dylan Taitano, and Marlene Caniza once again, and under even more dire circumstances than before. It's been 6 months since our last testimony before you. Due to our last experience, we kindly ask that you please put your mobile devices and other means of communication away so we can address you with your full and undivided attention. We appreciate that. The reason why we ask a small request is because the last time we were here, it seems that a request for necessary assistance fell deaf ears and blind eyes. We are here today because we believe the families, students, teachers, and community deserve transparency before decisions are made, not excuses after decisions have already been made. We need clarity, communication, and collaboration if we are to be a village educating our children, not the confusion, chaos, and carelessness driving our education system right now. In recent months, we've seen discussions and decisions involving our schools, including putting a charter school at a DOE school, and of course the proposed our campuses. These decisions affect thousands of students and families, yet too often communities learn about major changes through rumors, social media, meetings, or after decisions appear to be already underway or through threats. This is concerning because GDOE's own strategic plan identifies collaborative leadership as its first strategic goal. The department says it wants to foster greater engagement of stakeholders to support student success. So we have to ask, are we truly practicing collaborative leadership if the people most affected by these decisions are learning about them after the fact? Transparency cannot simply mean correcting misinformation after the community becomes alarmed. Transparency means giving the community accurate information before decisions are finalized. Parents and teachers should have access to the information making these decisions. Capacity, facility assessments, timelines, and when you say that people said certain things, when did they say it and in what context? Don't say things to fit your defense and agenda. We teach our students that time and context is important when quoting evidence. Asking the board to communicate with us, involve us, and show us the information before major decisions are made. If GDOE truly believes that collaborative leadership is student success, then the community should be treated as a partner, not as an audience receiving announcements after the decisions have been made.
Half a day, I'm Dylan Taitsino, and I'm talking about data and accountability, which is GDOE strategic goal number 7. So we understand that the superintendent and board are under tremendous pressure to make decisions quickly, and we understand that those decisions are made because leaders are trying to solve real problems facing the students, but urgency cannot replace research. Therefore, before making major decisions that affect thousands of students, GDOE should have sufficient data to demonstrate that the decision is the best available option, not just what looks best on paper or just a little examination like that. And Tiza and Sanchez situation is a good example. So before moving students or creating a shared campus, you guys should have checked for classroom capacity, restrooms, water, electricity, HVAC, all of the things that the school would have needed. And if that information had been fully collected and analyzed beforehand, then we have to ask, could some of these problems been identified later or that were identified now have been discovered earlier? And we're asking you guys to show us the data. You guys are even saying, the principals had made this decision to share a campus at Tizan and Sanchez, but I find it hard to believe that unless, you guys can show us the data, that they chose to put 2 high schools at the school with the least amount of rooms. And then, like these concerns too, like you guys are saying we just found out, why didn't this happen during summer? These concerns are not sudden and they did not just suddenly appear. In October 2025 at a town hall, Ms. Hernandez told you guys that Tizan High School was problems with Cortec maintaining our school. And then in March of 2026, us 3 again were here and we told you guys, these are the problems that Tizan is facing and that we cannot open up as a school with Sanchez successfully and realistically if they are not addressed, and they were not. Our students deserve leaders who have the courage to slow down long enough to make informed decisions. And we're not just asking you guys to move slowly for the sake of being slow, but we're asking you guys to give yourself time to research, analyze, verify, and communicate data before making decisions that cannot easily be reversed. Your guys' decisions should be proactive, not reactive, because when the decision involves our children's education, we didn't know cannot be the answer.
Hi, my name is Marlene Quintanilla. I want to bring the board back to something we discussed back in March. We raised the 14 points of adequate education. These were not luxuries that we were asking for. We were really, like Dylan said, we needed those in order for Sanchez to move in successfully. So in March, we asked you to follow through on our concerns because these are requirements of the adequate education before moving Sanchez into our school. Unfortunately, Tizan ultimately shut down. Some of the demerits we received were directly related to larger population and items that we mentioned back in March. Even the request for a bandwidth upgrade was not addressed yet, and these items were beyond our admin's control. So what happened between March and the closure of Tizan? We're not trying to assign blame, but we are asking accountability requires us to learn from what happened, right? So if we do not examine what happened at Tizan, how can we be confident that the same problems will not happen to another school? The Adequate Education Act should not become a checklist that we examine only after something goes wrong. It should be the standard that guides decisions before students are moved, schools are closed, or facilities are repurposed. We are asking the board to publicly review what occurred at Tizan and determine whether the requirements of adequate education were being addressed in a timely and meaningful way. And we ask that the lessons learned from Tizan be applied to every school in Guam, because every child, whether they attend Tizan, Sanchez, Southern, GW, JP Torres, or any other GDOE school, deserves the same commitment to a safe, adequate, and functional learning environment. Adequate education should not depend on school which your child attends. But just on a side note, I know we need 0 demerits to go back, but Tamuning and LBJ was shut down in 2023 and we're allowed to reopen with needing fewer than 13 and 12 demerits respectively. So I don't know if we can look into that as well, as long as we can get an A. Thank you.
So our final concern is about who should come first when the superintendent and Guam Education Board makes decisions. Our answer is simple: the students. We recognize that charter schools students are Guam students. We recognize that every educational system has needs. But when the Guam Education Board makes decisions about GDOE schools, facilities, programs, resources, the question should always just be, what is in the best interest of GDOE students? We are concerned when decisions appear to accommodate competing educational institutions or when professional responsibilities outside GDOE could create the appearance that a decision benefits an individual's institution or their professional interests. For example, when a board member also has a leadership role at some other educational institution. But we're not here to attack individual board members. We're asking for a clear standard of governance. You should disclose potential conflicts, avoid even the appearance of outside employment, institutional affiliations, etc. And the standard should be applied equally when the issues involve places like charter schools. If GWE is considering using public facilities to accommodate other educational institutions, the community deserves to know. What options were considered? What does the data show? What is the cost of GDOE? What is the impact? We ask that GDOE also seriously investigate available temporary facilities, not Tizen High School. For example, the Guahan Charter Academy School facility is a government building on which they pay no rent, and they have not since their inception. That is a GovGuam facility. So we have, was it 90 days? They have 90 days that they can vacate. That could be a temporary facility. We're saying this, this is not automatically the answer, but we're saying this should be one of the alternatives, right? So it's important for GDOE to do this for possible issues in the future and to stop trying to shut down Tizen High School just to fix problems that should have been fixed previously, and stop trying to rewrite history. Stop trying to rewrite history and say that our school was always meant to be temporary. As a colleague of mine had said recently, one of my OGs, I would not have transferred to a school if I knew it was going to be temporary. If we were temporary, why do we establish a mascot and identity? Why do we seek multiple accreditations, including being the only nationally accredited career academy model high school in the region, in spite of what other schools purporting their career academies? Why does this temporary school have the multiple accolades it achieves when we're presumably going to be disassembled at any point when it fits your agenda? What kind of temporary is that? I'm an English teacher, but I don't have to be one to tell you that is not the meaning of the word. We are not the solutions to the problems you made. Tizen High School students, teachers, staff, administrators, and community partners are not the ones who should suffer the consequences.
Please wrap it up. Thank you.
I'd like to wrap it up by saying our children should never have to compete with adult interests for a seat at the table. Thank you.
Jonathan Fliss. After Jonathan will be Monica Fliss.
Hello? Okay. My name is Jonathan Fliss. I am a junior at Tizen High School, and a critical skill we are taught is to research before we come to conclusions. We are taught to have evidence to back up our decisions. We are taught to come to educated guesses. We are taught to think before we speak. So tell me why the Board of Education cannot go through the same processes schools have taught us for years. You claim to say our principal suggested redistricting, when you failed to clarify that was at the end of last year. She has never suggested redistricting to solve the current problem with Tizen and Sanchez. On top of that, why are you having our principals solve the problems you are responsible for? Are you trying to have someone to blame in case something goes wrong? It seems like it's always somebody else making the decisions instead of the one most responsible. You claimed that Tizen had a permit that lasted a year and therefore could not renew it into 2 separate permits. However, did you ever think to have 2 new permits instead of renewing the current one, or were you too worried about costs then? You also claim Cortec is out of our control, but who approved the contract? Why wasn't the board made aware of this amendment when it occurred 12 years ago? It's public knowledge, and it was stated in Guam PDN in 2015. Quote, the speaker Judith Wan Pat and Vice Speaker Benjamin Cruz had questioned the revised deal with Cortec. You claim you weren't aware, but it sure seems you were made aware of it 11 years ago. Over and over again, it feels like decisions are rushed and not fully planned out. Things are falling through the cracks of incompetence, and every attempt to take 1 step forward is followed by 3 steps back. Last summer, your main goal was to end sessions, but guess what's the option you decided in case we can't get back to Tizen? Even now, you had entertained the idea of possibly redistricting the schools, or so now you might have scrapped it, when that would lead to mass disruptions in students' learning. You are the board. You are our representatives. Act like it. If you truly cared what's best for the students, you would practice what you preach and think before you speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really quick, guys. Can we get a couple of
Monica? After Monica will be Audrey.
Hi, my name is Monica Fliss. I am a teacher at Simon Sanchez High School. I'm here to say rebuild Sanchez. That's my main point. Sanchez, the Sanchez community is tired. And to quote one of my coworkers, resilience isn't even the word anymore. We've gone through so much and have been told to overcome so much. And you know what? I'm going to skip all that. Just want to say thank you to JFK and thank you to teachers for sharing with us. You know what we've been through. You know the history already. But my main question is, why do we have to be so resilient? Why? We deserve better. The Simon Sanchez High School community deserves better. Now, hold on. Let's see. We've been adapting and we've been figuring things out. But more than 3 years later, we still don't have a home to go to. And in fact, last week, it looks like we started back to step one with that procurement process. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. The students are more than a number. Schools are more than a building that we put the students in. Schools are communities and relationships, and we need a place to be for those relationships and for that community to thrive. So rebuild Sanchez and fix TGen, right? All high schools are deserving better than what they're getting right now. So let's step up to the plate and let's make that happen. We can't keep on depending on school communities to be resilient, right? Do the right thing and let's rebuild Sanchez and fix TGen. Thank you.
Is it Audrey Cruz? Okay, after Audrey will be Cheyenne Corral.
Which one, this one? Okay.
Corrali. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Audrey Perez Cruz, and I come before you today not only as a Simon Sanchez High School teacher, but as the GFT Dewey Union Chair. Now, as a teacher, union representative, and stakeholder, I am left asking a fundamental question. Do our voices actually matter? The department asked for our input, but are our suggestions actually being heard, seriously considered, and incorporated into the decisions being made? Time and time again, teachers, students, staff, parents, administrators have reached out to this board and to this department to communicate what we need, what our students need, and what our schools need. Yet decisions continue to be made without meaningful consideration of the people who will be affected by this and live with the consequences. I cannot begin to count the number of times my administrative team has met with our faculty to talk about our situation at Simon Sanchez High School. And I want to be very clear about something. I am in awe of how hard my administrative team has worked on all of these changes and all of these moves. They have continuously adapted to each new situation. They have listened to their faculty. They have worked tirelessly to find solutions for our school community. But if they're listening to us, who is listening to them? We need open communication, transparency, and genuine consideration of stakeholder input. These should not be optional. They should be fundamental principles when making decisions that affect thousands of students, families, educators, and entire school communities. We need to stop trying to figure out who will take the blame and who is responsible for this and that. The amount of finger pointing is frustrating. We as a department need to do better. This board that has been elected needs to do better. Hold people responsible for those decisions, accountable. Where is the accountability? The transparency and open dialogue needs to be had. Where is it? We cannot continue to limit ourselves to solutions simply because they are the way things have always been done in the past. This situation requires us to think differently. We need to be willing to consider innovative and temporary solutions that prioritize our students while keeping them connected to the teachers, staff, peers, and support systems they have built within their school communities. We should be looking for the best solution, not the easiest one. Our teachers, students, parents, staff, administrators, and community members have ideas. They are willing to help. They are willing to work. They are willing to be part of the solution. We need a voice, a spot on this board that can vote on these decisions. We have spent years asking to be heard. Enough is enough. Now is the time to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheyenne? Shane, and then Jonavi Abaya will be next. Jonavi Abaya will be next.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shane Corrali, and I stand before you today as Simon Sanchez National Honor Society President and Simon Sanchez Senior Class Vice President. I have been a product of Guam's public system. I have attended public school for my entire educational career, and yet when I look back at the years as a student, I realize just how much of a quote normal school experience I have never experienced. To put things into perspective, many seniors from Simon Sanchez High School never had a 5th grade promotion because of COVID. We've never had an 8th grade promotion because of Typhoon Mawar, and we've never even set foot on the original Simon Sanchez campus. Our entire high school experience has been shaped by displacement, uncertainty, and change. But through all of that, there was one thing that made it bearable: the people. The friends who became family, the teachers who continued showing up for us, and the classmates who experienced the same disruption, the same uncertainty, and the same challenges alongside me. Our high school experience as seniors has never been normal, but somehow together we made it ours. That is why the proposed island-wide redistricting, I know what you said, quote unquote, it came from the principals, but at the end of the day, whose final decision is that? It's so painful to hear you, Superintendent Dr. Wonpat. I ask you to look at this not only as a superintendent, but as a mother and a grandmother. Imagine telling a generation of students who have missed promotions, lost the campus, endured a typhoon, endured a pandemic, and watched their school community be displaced over and over again. You have to leave this school too. Please do not make that our story. We are not asking to avoid change. We are asking for a chance to face change together. We believe our education is more than buildings, more than boundaries, and more than enrollment numbers. School is the people who make us feel like we belong there. And for us, that is the Sharks family. Please allow us to remain together, allow us to grow together, and allow us to finish what we already started. And more importantly, please allow the class of 27 to graduate together as Simon Sanchez High School Sharks. Thank you.
Test. Can you hear me? Am I able to start or shall I? Okay. So good afternoon. My name is Jonavi Abaya and I teach at Simon Sanchez High School. What I really want to know is what exactly is your decision-making process? Because when we look at major decisions affecting our community made without serious stakeholder input or despite it, we see a troubling pattern of, dare I say, failures. Failure number 1, Tatidzin. I know the decision to end double sessions was made with good intentions, but honestly, our community was largely in favor of remaining status quo at JFK. Okay. Double sessions come with a lot of cons, disadvantages, but we had stability there. We were there for 3 years. Nevertheless, the decision was made to place us at Tidzin. And we know this failed because the campus was simply not ready to have us. I know this firsthand. I had 2 classrooms at the Tidzin campus, both very far apart. The Friday before school was going to start on the 10th, I didn't have enough desks. Our admin worked hard to find desks just for me in time for Monday, and both classrooms did not have working air conditioning. So the first few days of school that I met my students, we sweated bullets. and they never complained. And this is not an isolated incident because a lot of teachers experience this. Potential failure number 2, we're doing it again. When asked on Thursday during a faculty meeting, the majority of our faculty favored a return to double sessions. Sanchez was not alone. Our other school communities were also in favor of double sessions again. But for some reason, redistricting became one that was seriously under consideration from what we were hearing. So again, before any decision is made, can you tell us how stakeholder input will actually factor into your final decision? You guys really need to listen to your stakeholders. And by listen, we don't want, oh, I hear you. We need you to understand our position, because giving us this platform to speak is not the same as allowing what we say to actually matter in your decision. And let's not forget the one failure at the root of all of this is that Simon Sanchez still has no school. For years, we've been between sharing spaces and what Ms. Fliss said, being resilient. But we are so tired of that word because resilience, it masks systemic failures. We adapt, we compromise, we make it work, and because we always make it work, somehow we're expected to always make it work. And remembering our why as teachers, it's not enough anymore. Our devotion cannot patch broken ceilings, or it shouldn't require us to accept whatever conditions that we are given. So please, no more of this. We're done pretending that home is where the heart is, or where the people are, or where the community is. No, home is where we have an actual damn school. Thank you.
Thank you. Hayden? Hayden? And then after is Nevaeh.
Test. Okay. What is an off day? Superintendent Dr. Wanpat and board. Guahuse Hayden Grumo, a freshman student at Simon Sanchez High School. I am also, alongside my class of 2030 classmates, symbolized that a new generation has become sharks, and yet I can guarantee each and every one of you that we are going to graduate without one stepping foot into Simon Sanchez High School campus. And it's not just us. Too many sharks have been led on and promised complete hollowness for decades. It's disheartening that a student like myself and a multitude of others have to start speaking up before action on the higher authority finally starts to take course. As a freshman, it gives me hope that my class will be the game-changing class. But if it didn't happen back in 2003, will it even happen now in the school year 26-27? So por favor, parahita ifamagoon, listen to our voices. The continuous years of uncertainty and broken and empty promises come to an end. Sharks belong in water, and our waters are located in Jigo, not in Tamuning, not in Derrida, but in Jigo. It comes with the name stakeholders. We are the stakeholders, and as us students, our education is at stake. So, with that being said, I only have one thing to say. Rebuild Sanchez, and to the board, Superintendent Dr. Wanpat, bring us home to the 653. Si Diyos Masi.
Nevaeh's next, and after Nevaeh is Lance Morales.
Hello everyone, my name is Nevaeh Erickson and I am currently a junior enrolled at Teason High School, home of the Titans, who have also joined me in the crowd today, and also our other GDOE high schools. And thank you for the people watching on the live stream for your support. Today, I'm speaking up on behalf of not only myself, but the community Teason has built over the past decade till now. Students should be comfortable waking up every morning to go to school for 5 days of their week to learn, build connections, and be in conditions that help them thrive. It's not every day a typical student should be worried about being stripped away from that. But for Teason students, that became the norm. We roam poorly maintained halls daily, used the restroom with only 2 toilets out of 8 working, and dealt with unsanitary environments we wouldn't even wish upon you GDOE board members. Yet, through all of the hardships, the students, faculty, and staff persevered and made do with what little we were given. We were lucky enough to have redistricting off the table, but we all know that it is never off the table for good. We are lucky to have options to choose from and decide what is best for our community. But if you think about it, none of this would have happened if you people did your job during the summer. Yet, you allow 2,000 plus students walk onto the campus knowing it wasn't safe. So really, how lucky are we then? Not lucky enough to have you as our board making decisions at us and not for us. Not lucky enough to have our school that is not constantly on the chopping block. And not lucky enough to be seen as anything but a temporary school. However, we are lucky enough to have built such a strong community even when times are dire. We are paying the consequences for failure of action from you. Explain to me how that is fair. It's okay to save your breath because I know you can't explain. I just hope from today you learn from this experience that the next time something like happens, you will have a crowd just like this one to remind you what the students, staff, and parents stand for. Do better, don't redistrict, fix Tizan, and rebuild Simon Sanchez. Thank you for your time.
Next is Lance Morales. And after Lance is Asia Farron. Asia. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lance Morales, and I'm here to speak as a student of Tizan High School. If there's one word I could describe to describe what my school stands for and what we students are, it's resilient. But I'm not here to glorify this resilience because number one, it's a shame that students had problems in their campus. Number two, it's a shame that no matter how much we tried to get our voices heard, no responses came. And number three, and most importantly, it's a shame that us students, the faculty and staff, have to fight to keep our campus open. Things like this should not be the bare minimum to keep our school from shutting down. But to me and my peers standing with me today, it's a situation we have been in since our freshman year. The board meetings we attended, the dark thought of our school closing, it's nothing new. And we cannot be the only ones who are tired of the empty promises, tired of fighting for my school, my right for education, and tired of these board meetings that could have been easily avoided, and with all due respect, easily avoided if you, the board, took proper action. And let me emphasize this again. You, the board, lit the fire to this problem, and if you took our voices and our education into consideration, you would pass the torch. But one thing I know for sure is that students keep persevering. The Titans will not stop until we have 100% confirmation that we will stay. I want confirmation sealed in paper and pen, not just your broken promises or cheap words. No amount of hindering our right to education will break our resolve. Our resolve to keep Tizan High School open, and our resolve to rebuild Simon Sanchez. And as a student of Tizan High School, I say this. Our school is not a temporary solution. We are meant to stay and we will stand our ground. As our school motto says, the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Next up after this is AC Joe Cruz.
Test. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Aya Farron. I am a sophomore attending Simon Sanchez High School. If the goal is to solve the problems surrounding Simon Sanchez High School, redistricting does not solve the problem. It only moves the students who are experiencing it. Sanchez has been without a permanent home since 2023, and throughout all of this, students have already had to adapt to unstable campus conditions. We are incredibly grateful to Tizan High School for giving us a place to learn and welcoming us with open arms. But that gratitude should not give our leaders an excuse to keep funneling students from one place to another and separating our community. I also want to acknowledge that if we move forward with redistricting, So much of the work us students have put in will be lost. Students who have worked relentlessly throughout all 4 years of high school to make the top 10 could have their achievements disrupted by being moved into a completely different school environment. The same goes for our clubs, organizations, class funds, and everything students have spent years building. The time, effort, passion, and dedication that students have poured into their school would not simply follow us wherever we are sent. We have built something here, and it hurts to think that all of it could be thrown away. As I come to the end of my statement, I understand that redistricting may be viewed as the safe option, but redistricting isn't rebuilding. We are still waiting for the campus we were promised years ago. We are students, not numbers. And as students of Simon Sanchez High School, we have already proven how strong our identity is. We continued showing up, learning in unstable conditions, competing both athletically and academically, and staying together as a community despite not having the stability that other schools have. We've adapted again and again, and we're still standing. All we're asking for is the stability, respect, and consideration that every student deserves. We are tired of the false promises, tired of being overlooked. We aren't bulldogs, we aren't islanders, we're sharks and will forever be sharks. We aren't going down without a fight because we believe our school and our community are worth standing up for. Thank you.
And after AC Joe is Gleyn, Gleyn. Okay.
Good evening, members of the Guam Education Board, superintendent, and members of our community. My name is AC Joe Cruz. I am a graduate of Simon Sanchez High School. I was an administrator at Simon Sanchez High School. I have been a teacher there for 24 years, and I am the mother of a Simon Sanchez graduate, and I am humbled to serve this day as the 2026 Guam Teacher of the Year. But tonight, I am not here because of any title. I am here because I am a shark through and through, and I have had enough. For years, you have called us resilient. Our students are resilient. Our teachers are resilient. Our staff and families are resilient. And yes, we are, but when do we get to stop being resilient? When does resilience stop being something to admire and start becoming an excuse for asking the same community to endure one hardship after another? Because the reason we are here discussing redistricting and dividing our students among other schools is not because the Simon Sanchez community failed. We are here because the school promised to us has not been rebuilt. So please do not solve the problem of Simon Sanchez High School by eliminating Simon Sanchez High School. Tonight, I especially ask you to think about my seniors. Class of 2027 will be the first graduating class to proudly call themselves Sanchez Sharks without ever having attended high school on the Simon Sanchez campus. Not 1 year, not 1 semester, not 1 day. These are the same children whose 5th grade year was cut by COVID. Then in 8th grade, infrastructure problems at FB Leon Guerrero disrupted their education again. Then they entered high school and were asked once again to adjust. These kids cannot catch a break. But they did what you asked of them. They rode buses that sometimes got them home after 6 p.m. They woke up at 5 a.m. for 5 a.m. practices because there was no other time or facility available. They lost friends who transferred because the schedule became too difficult. They endured being called homeless because they didn't have a school of their own. They were tired, they were hungry, they sacrificed time with families, and still they did what you asked of them. They studied, they achieved, they won competitions and championships. They represented Sanchez with pride, and through every disruption, they remained all heart, all soul. And our students were not the only ones who did their part. Our teachers did their part. They packed classrooms, unpacked them, shared spaces, changed schedules, adjusted lessons, and somehow continued to make unfamiliar places feel like school. Our school aides did their part. They lifted boxes, moved
Thank you,
furniture,
ma'am. Your
packed and
time is
unpacked.
up.
I'm going to ask for a little bit of your patience, just that we have been patient waiting for our school. And
Sorry,
unpacked
ma'am, your
supplies
time
and
is
helped
up.
move an
Everybody
entire
has
school community.
3
Our parents did their
minutes.
part. Their community
Thank you
has
very
done their
much.
part. Now, when will you do yours? Thank you.
Madam Superintendent, before the other speakers, just in full disclosure, Miss A.C. Jo Cruz is my daughter. And it hurts me. It hurts me to have her and these students be able to come up here and beg to keep their school. 71 years ago, on this very day, my mother and father gave birth to me so that I could have the oldest child in Joe. And so the only gift that I could ask is that we as a board listen to their voices, no matter who they are, because every voice counts. Jesus Mas.
Before you begin, is Mayor June Blas and Vice Mayor Jesse Bautista here? They had to leave. Okay, so after them, after this presentation will be Christian Rivera. Okay, you may proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenn Rajan D. Adam, a junior at George Washington High School. Today, I represent the students under GDOE who are not here today. Despite school colors and rivalries, we students share common goals as well. I mean, it's not every day high schoolers want to go to school, wake up early, get ready, walk, drive, catch the bus, not to mention the hour-long classes, but what's happening right now, it's not about that. GDOE's goal, and I quote, to prepare all students for life by ensuring that all students receive a high-quality education. A high-quality education. What that is, rebuild Sanchez, fix Tizan. Now, there's been a petition going on in favor of double session. Why? Because double session is a hope while still being able to attend school the way we deserve. We have spent enough time learning online to know face-to-face offers an education far more inclusive and productive. We would all like to feel as if we have a of our own without having to be worried about tomorrow. I am a gecko, but I stand with my fellow high schoolers, whether they be a titan, a shark, a bulldog, or a dolphin, in giving everyone the highest quality of education available right now. It's not just about learning face-to-face. It's also about identity. For many years, Simon Sanchez went on with their high school years without a home school, and yet here they are. Here they all are. Not just titans or sharks, but the whole community, louder and more determined than before. Why are we so persistent about this? What will happen if we remain silent? If we sit back and do nothing? It's our education. If my teachers care enough to ask what mode of learning is sufficient for me, I hope you're all open to hearing what we want for education. Your public school students and teachers, here they all are, advocating for a double session when a building should be bare minimum. A double session is less invasive solution. That's plan A, I'm hoping. Then there's plan B, plan C, redistricting. The more time you use juggling students, the more we will lose valuable learning hours. Some thought they were going to graduate as a gecko, some a titan, a shark, or an islander. It's a legacy, an identity. It's more than just a name, more than just a building. It's a second home. Bring Sanchez and Tizan home. And it's not about just the students. It's about teachers, the admins, the staff who may lose their jobs over seniority. Guam's employment is only 212 square miles wide, and the cost of living? Definitely not cheap. The hard work our teachers put into their craft through the course of their teaching career, the continuous help our school aides and cleaning staff have provided us, and the guidance of our admin, where will that go if they lose the position they had no say on? some to stay, and some
Please
inside
wrap it up.
boxes.
Your time is up. Thank you.
You ask why we say these arguments time and time again. It's because they need to be heard. This is not just about Tizan and Simon Sanchez. It's about every public school in Guam. Thank you.
Christian Guevara. After Christian is Sheila Marie Matienzo.
What is an off day once again, Madam Superintendent and Board? My name is Hayden Gruma once again, and today I sit here on behalf of Christian Guevara, who was unable to be here physically, but will still make sure that his voice is heard.
My name is Christian Guevara, and I am a Simon Sanchez freshman. Though I may not be there physically, I will still have my opinions heard, not only for me, but for the future freshmen who decide to make Simon Sanchez their home. This is just very frustrating, because not only do I have to do online classes, I am now hearing that we're getting distributed among the GDOE high schools. I started to ask myself, why couldn't we just double session with JFK or OHS? Then again, I understand that the GDOE wants to end double sessions. But if distribution is one of the plans you have for us, then maybe double session shouldn't be ending. Another problem I see is the safety of students. By putting us in different campuses, you increase the chances of fights, discrimination, and riots. This is a very important matter because these possibilities could risk the lives of not only students, but also staff and teachers. I would also like to add that these factors will push students into thinking that their learning environment is unsafe, therefore affecting their academic performance. Also, how can you reassure parents that their children can be safe in a different campus? Have you also taken into consideration about the population of the other high schools? These questions could be running through many different minds of both parents and students. Finally, as my closing statement, I would like to say a few words. When we have a campus for ourselves, it serves as a beacon of hope, learning, and excellence for many generations. This hope can show in many different ways for many different schools. But for Simon Sanchez, that hope is our school pride, resilience, and the hard work we put in as students to get our campus back. I would like to thank you for listening, and let's make a difference for the future of Simon Sanchez High School.
And before I do end it off, there's a little bit more that Guevara wanted to ask, and I quote, "It truly brings me joy that our, quote, most unserious generation cares for our future. I also wish that I could be by your guys' side during the GDOE meeting tomorrow, but due to unforeseen circumstances. But the pride of SSHS remains and lives on forever. All heart, all shark."
And after Miss Sheila is Inina Sanchez.
Half a day, good afternoon, everyone. I am here because I just wanted to show my support. I have a high school student, and I have two sons that graduate from Simon Sanchez High School. And I'm here because, I'm just asking for something our high school students have been waiting for, like a permanent physical campus of their own. Our sharks deserve a safe, stable, and fully equipped place to learn, grow, and build their future. Remember, these young students may be our future leaders, and I believe that they will be able to serve the government someday. So I'm hoping that this government will be able to provide their own physical campus, because it's something that they've been longing for. I know they keep asking to rebuild, but they need their home. The sharks really do need their home. And I just want to say that we respectfully want to ask the Department of Education and our respective leaders if it's possible to make this a priority and take action. Our students have waited long enough. They deserve a school campus. They deserve a home. They deserve to have their normalcy, to experience the traditions of being in high school. And I just want to thank the Tizen and JFK schools for accommodating Simon Sanchez throughout the years. Thank you.
And after
Inena.
Inena, then Kyla, Ashley, Glory. You may begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Inena Sanchez, a junior student at George Washington High School. I would please ask Miss Dr. Gunthers to stay awake during what I'm trying to say. I understand that redistricting is not explicitly on the agenda. However, based on how issues within GDOE have been handled in the past, I cannot confidently assume that this possibility won't be considered again. This is why I stand here today to respectfully address my concerns and worries. Students should not have to leave the school community they are just to solve problems they did not create. There was talk recently that the Guam Education Board and the superintendent were considering solutions for the situation involving Tizen High School and Simon Sanchez, and redistricting was one of the possibilities on the table. The idea of redistricting would have caused and created massive disruptions and have a negative effect on all of Guam public high schools. Moving us would affect our education, transportation, and the school community we are already part of. Instead of making another group of students deal with consequences, GDOE should consider the most temporary and least disruptive, such as double sessions. One of the biggest concerns is our education. This school year has already started, and students have schedules and classes they need for their academic goals. If a large number of students are transferred, classes in general may already be full, especially honors, AP, and elective courses. Could also be placed with teachers at a different point of the curriculum. Students should not risk falling behind or losing class important to their academic goals because of a problem they did not create. The idea of redistricting create transportation and financial challenges for many families who are already struggling to make ends meet. Yes, buses exist, but not every student relies on them. Families have already created routines around GW and other public schools, and students who are actively involved in sports, clubs, or other activities may need rides outside of busing. Moving farther south or anywhere could mean longer drives, additional gas expenses, and changes to routines families have already established. Families have already spent monies on uniforms and supplies. They should not suddenly have to purchase new uniforms because, again, a problem they did not create. Another concern is what could happen to our teachers. Under the GDOE's teacher's contract, if a teaching position is eliminated, the affected teacher may be able to take the position of a less senior teacher. If they are qualified and certified, teachers whose positions are eliminated may also receive first preference for other positions they qualify for. This means major changes to our school could affect not only where students attend,
Can you please
but where teachers work. Before making these changes, GDOE should clearly explain how teachers and their jobs would be affected. Our teachers should not be displaced because of problems they did not create, and our students. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Kyla? And then Jasmine Enriquez is next. Thank you.
Half a day, everyone. My name is Kyla Ashley Glory. I am the senior class president of Simon Sanchez High School, and I have found myself wondering a question that I never thought I would be asking my senior year. What will be left of Simon Sanchez High School when we are gone? Although you speak that you are not entertaining the redistricting, it is still an option for the future. As a student, that uncertainty is exhausting. As a student, it is heartbreaking because Simon Sanchez is not just a building. Simon Sanchez is a name. Our school has our website, and it still has the saying, Sanchez High forever. That phrase means something to us. And that is the possibility of losing Simon Sanchez High School. That is why it is heartbreaking. For the senior class, this is especially personal. What happens to everything we have worked for? What happens to our class funds? What happens to our student council? What happens to our clubs? What happens to our trophies, records, history, and identity? What happens to the students who have spent years calling themselves sharks? These questions cannot simply be answered by saying that students will attend school somewhere else, because attendance is not the same thing as belonging. A school is a community. Simon Sanchez students have already sacrificed enough, and now we are being asked to potentially sacrifice our identity? But I ask that the people making these decisions remember one thing. We are not numbers on a spreadsheet. We are not asking for special treatment. We are asking for stability, transparency, and respect. If Simon Sanchez is going to continue, let us continue as Simon Sanchez. If we are going to move, tell us the truth. If school is going to be rebuilt, then give us a realistic timeline. If our student organizations and class funds are going to be affected, involve the students who have earned those funds. If our school identity is going to change, students, alumni, families, teachers, and community have a voice. Most importantly, please do not make decisions about our future without talking to the people who have to live with the decision. Our generation has spent too much of high school waiting. And now, as seniors, we are watching our younger face the possibility of going through the same thing. That is not the legacy we want to leave behind. We want future Sharks to know that even when our campus was taken away, our identity wasn't. And even when people questioned whether our school could survive, we kept showing up. Because Simon Sanchez High School is more just a building. It is the people who make it. Do not separate us. It is every student who has ever worn the Sharks color and proudly said, "I am Sanchez." As I look toward graduation, I do not want to graduate wondering whether the school I represented will still exist in the same way for the students who come after me. I want to graduate knowing that we did everything we could to protect it. Because our school deserves more than just another temporary solution. Our students deserve time.
Please wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you. And the Sharks deserve a home. Thank you.
After Jasmine Enriquez is Dina.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jasmine Enriquez, and I'm a senior student at Simon Sanchez High School, as well as the Student Body Association President. I'm speaking today because I want to share my perspective on double session and island-wide redistricting. I understand that difficult decisions have to be made. I understand that there may not be a solution that makes everyone satisfied. But I ask that when you make this decision, you look beyond simply finding a place to put us students. Because these aren't just students being moved to different schools. They are communities being moved. Simon Sanchez is a community. We have our teachers, our friends, our clubs, our sports, our programs, our traditions, and our identity as Sharks. We have built something together. I don't believe that should be treated as something that can simply be divided between different schools. But my concern isn't only about Sanchez. If Sanchez students are redistricted into other schools, those schools will be affected too. They already have their own students who already have their own programs and communities. If they don't have enough space for the students coming in, then where do their students go? And if those students have to be moved somewhere else, then we have created another problem at another school. We cannot solve Simon Sanchez's displacement issue by continuously moving students from one school to another. When comparing these two options, I believe the board needs to consider the total number of students, parents, and families who will ultimately be affected, not just the number of students being moved. So please, I ask the board to look at the bigger picture. How many students will actually be affected by this decision? How many school communities disrupted? How many students would have longer commutes? And how much of their high school experience are we willing to change in order to make the numbers work? I know that double session is not perfect and that students deserve a normal school schedule. But if the alternative is dispersing students across different schools and rearranging established school communities, then I believe double session deserves serious consideration. A temporary situation does not have to become a permanent change to a student's high school experience. That is why I'm asking the board to seriously consider double session between Simon Sanchez High School and Uguru High School. This would allow students to remain within their school communities. And ultimately, I want to come back to Simon Sanchez. Sanchez is not just a building that can be replaced by sending students somewhere else. It is a community that we have built and continue to identify with. If we redistrict our students away from Sanchez, we have to ask, what happens to Sanchez itself? Is there still intent of rebuilding it? If we separate the students in their school community long enough, there is a real risk that Sanchez might not be rebuilt at all. I don't believe the answer to a temporary situation should be the disappearance of an entire school community. We should be finding a way to keep our students together now while making sure that Simon Sanchez has a future to come back to. We are Sharks because of the community we built together. Even with no campus, that's what made it home. Please give us the opportunity to keep that community and give Sanchez the opportunity to come back. Thank you.
Dina, this is a Tizen parent. We'll come back to Dina. Chelsea? And after Chelsea is Alexi Joe.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Taga, and I'm a junior at Tizen High School. I had volleyball practice with my friends on the 13th of August, and I was so excited for the following day as it would conclude my first week of junior year. But then that got cut short as I received the news right when the practice ended that we were shut down. I was worried regarding what this could mean for myself, my peers, my teacher, and especially my community. And in all honesty, when I found out that our school had failed the health inspection, I was disappointed. Not disappointed faculty, because Titans know how much they do in order to keep our campus as clean as they can. Not our staff, because they always encourage us to respect our facility. I'm not even disappointed in my peers here at Tizen because these issues were never caused by us. Every leaking ceiling, every broken tile, weak plumbing, all these broken down buildings were always overlooked. Our countless complaints to get these issues fixed were always deemed unimportant or unnecessary. And also, did people really have to post about these issues online just for you all to care? I'm disappointed in our leaders for letting our campus get this bad. Why did it take you all so long to care when our school is one street away? Us Titans shouldn't have to beg you to receive the bare minimum. Thank you.
What's that, Ms. G? I'll put it on the list. Joe? Jasmine Green?
Good afternoon. I apologize because Alexa and Jasmine had to leave early, but we'll be delivering their testimonies for them. So this is from Alexa. As a senior, I came into this school year hoping to have the best year possible. Instead, I'm watching classmates and myself lose valuable time and experiences because of the circumstances that should have been addressed long before the school year began. We should be focused on our education, our future, and making memories. During our last year of high school, wondering where we will be learning or whether our concerns will ever be taken seriously. All we're asking is to be heard, but we don't just want to hear promises anymore. We want to see the action, the stories, photos, and videos being on the news and other platforms of how inconsistent Simon Sanchez has been. For years, Sanchez students have had to deal with uncertainty about where we are going to learn and whether we will ever have a school that feels secure, and truly ours. This is not something that just happened overnight. The Sanchez community has been dealing with these issues for years, and students continue to be the ones affected by the decisions being made around us. They went from our old campus, which had structural issues and was eventually made to JFK, where we had to share a campus and attend school with double sessions. We are extremely grateful to JFK for opening its doors to us during that time, but having to attend school later in the day and share a campus was difficult for students, teachers, and families. Now we are at Tizen, where we are once again adjusting to a new environment and dealing with concerns about the facilities, including air conditioning, bathrooms, and overcrowding. These are not small things when this is where students are expected to spend most of their day learning. Every year we are told that we are being supported and that people are doing everything they can for us. But how many town hall meetings are we going to have to where students show up, speak out about what we are experiencing, and then leave without seeing the action we are promised? The government has known about Sanchez's struggles for years. The process of rebuilding the school has faced delays involving procurement, funding, environmental issues, and other setbacks. So when we are finally going to stop hearing promises and start seeing consistent action? Students are supposed to feel safe and secure at school. We're supposed to be able to look at our school as a second home. But how are we supposed to feel that way when we have spent years wondering where we will even be going to school? This is not meant to sound ungrateful toward JFK or Tizan. We are genuinely thankful to both school communities for welcoming us and giving us a place to learn when our own campus could not. Our frustration is toward the people who continue to tell us that Sanchez is a priority, while students are still waiting to see those words turn into action. It is heartbreaking to see my school constantly making the news because of another problem, another delay, or another question about where our students are going to be at next. At some point, we have to ask, when are the people responsible for these decisions going to stop making promises and actually follow through? Last year, we had a town hall meeting where our community showed up. Sanchez community took the time to be there and speak about what we are experiencing. But the people we are expecting...
Wrap it up, please. Your time's up.
Her intent was to say that it's very tiring hearing this, and in all honesty, the fact that we have to wait more than a decade to wait for our school and fight for our school for more than a decade, and we only get 3 minutes to speak is disappointing. Rebuild Sanchez. Let me see.
Okay, this is behalf of Jasmine Green.
Madam Chair, and I just want to make this as a point of parliamentary procedure. I know we don't have a parliamentarian here. However, this is a public participation testimony section of the General School Board. And when a person reads testimony from another person, we have no idea who this person is. And generally speaking, you may do that, but only on the premise that the board approves it. And so in order for us to hear a third party being read here, generally speaking, we have to give approval for it. I'm not objecting to your reading of it, but that's generally how these kinds of things work in deliberative bodies like this. And Madam Chair, I don't know what the pleasure of the board is. What the pleasure of the board is, and maybe we should perhaps have a quick vote and then proceed. But generally speaking, it's not normal to have third-party letters like this read externally unless the person has special needs or some other point. I do not object to it myself. I just want to let you guys know that's the standard. Thank you.
I think we appreciate the circumstances. We appreciate the circumstances, and all of us agree we welcome the third-party testimony. Thank you. We welcome it.
Thank you. Anyways, as I was saying, this is from Jasmine Green. She says, my class had the very first class to spend all 4 years without ever setting foot on the actual Simon Sanchez campus. Think about that. How many more graduates are you going to let leave before experiencing the true high school? Instead, we try to learn in makeshift, overcrowded classrooms without functioning air conditions. We navigate double session where valuable class is cut short, forcing teachers to rush through critical lessons just to beat the clock. How are we supposed to prepare for college entrance exams, keep up with our classwork, or build a future when basic educational necessities, updated textbooks, stable classrooms, working technology, and quiet study spaces are treated like luxuries instead of basic rights? Now to speak, from her part, to speak as a student athlete, being a student athlete here is an uphill battle. As a 4-year varsity volleyball player, someone who represents Team Guam and plays for Legacy Volleyball Club, I would say I've experienced ups and downs, including winning 2 champions for Simon Sanchez our first 2 years of double session. Despite the happy times, we are reminded the daily biggest letdowns of it all is how high school careers was played in every gym but one we can call home. My entire high school experience has been defined by instability. I've spent 4 years pouring my heart into this sport, yet it breaks my heart to say I've never fully felt what it is like to represent Simon Sanchez at home. Now, as a senior, I face the reality that I won't get a proper senior night, a moment every high school athlete dreams of, because we simply don't have a place of our own. Jigo is the second largest populated village on this island. Our families pay taxes, contribute to this island, and raise children who are the future of Guam. Yet, instead of receiving the safe, modern campus promised over a decade ago, the proposed promise is to shuffle our kids around, disrupting their academic progress, tearing apart our sports, forcing longer commutes, and stripping away our identity. This is just not fair. It is ridiculous. Our students are not chess pieces to be moved around on the map. We need to be heard. We are young people trying to earn a diploma, secure college scholarships, achieve a quality education, and build a future. We are tired of waiting. We are tired of temporary fixes. Jigo deserves its high school. The shark community deserves respect. Rebuild Simon Sanchez. Not the next term, but now. Thank you.
Up is Julia Duke. And then after that is Kristen Benaventi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julia Dukes, and I'm a junior at Teason High School. And today I'm speaking on behalf of my friend, Narciso Paz, a 50-year-old senior of Teason High School and student at the University of Guam. Unfortunately, he's unable to make it today because of a 2 p.m. class at the university. He wants to speak for the high achievers of our school who balance their education with obligations outside of school, such as clubs, organizations, tutoring, and other commitments. But especially for the students like him who have to balance both high school and college, not just academically, but also in their day-to-day school lives. I want to preface that over this summer, Narciso has had to retake the math placement test 4 times at UOG in order to be eligible for a class that is after high school, just so he could accommodate for both school times. Teason High School ends at 1:45 p.m., and his UOG class starts at 2 p.m. face-to-face. With such a short time to go from Teason to UOG, he has also had to make arrangements to leave Teason early with our teachers and principal, all of which was a stressful process having to go back and forth. With the closure of Teason High School campus, all the stress that he has been dealing with felt like it was all for naught. He didn't plan if Teason were to be shut down. No one did. And having to stay at home would cause problems, effectively creating more stress for a student who just wants to get a head start into college. From what we have heard, if Teason goes into double session, our school day would start at 12 p.m. and end at 5 p.m. His UOG class is already at a fixed schedule for 2 p.m., and with the new schedule for Teason, that would mean he'd have to leave earlier in the school day, which means that he could be lacking in his studies in high school. But I want to ask, Dr. Wonpat, earlier you mentioned that you sponsored Bill 225-32 in 2014, which verbatim says, quote, relative to the renovation or construction of a new Simon Sanchez High School, end quote. As the superintendent of education and a former speaker of the Guam legislature, why have you not followed up on this bill? The Titans deserve better, the Sharks deserve better, we all deserve better. But most importantly, the board needs to do better. Thank you for your time.
And to answer that question was that after I had introduced the bill, I left the legislature. Since then, there were 2 other amendments to the original law. And when I came in, I asked our attorney, Ms. Tenorio, why is it that the department has not been able to move forward in implementing the Simon Sanchez rebuild? Only to find out between the governor's legal counsel, the legislature's legal counsel, and DOE's legal counsel that the bill that was amended had prevented the government to move forward. I've recommended new language. They have adopted it, passed it, and that's why now you've seen some movement for Simon Sanchez rebuild. Unfortunately, because of the protest, everything has been halted. And most recently, the Department of Public Works made a decision to end that protest and to be able to start all over again. So it is not the Board of Education or the Department of Education. that can push for the rebuild, that would have to be done by the government of Guam, meaning the executive branch and the legislative branch, to make sure that funding is still there for the rebuild of Simon Sanchez.
You're Kristen?
Yes.
Okay, after Kristen is Keola? Kinga.
She's not here.
She's not there. Okay, and then Zoe Atoigui. Okay, you may begin.
Hello, my name is Kristen Beneventi, an incoming shark. Being a freshman is already a wild ride, but throwing in school redistricting on top of my permanent state of exhaustion from double sessions feels like a cruel joke. How can we work if we're so worried about where we're gonna go? Starting high school is a big change. It feels like we're being set up to fail. School boards often treat us like numbers on a map, deciding to redraw boundaries without considering the impact on our daily lives. When you're already waking up before the sun and staying up late for practice, adding longer commute and a new unfamiliar school environment isn't just an inconvenience, it's just a major distress that drains our ability to focus on our grades. The biggest problem with redistricting is that it ignores the importance of stability. I, as a freshman, speaking for my peers, we are still trying to figure out where we fit in, and for our teammates and coaches, our main support system, when the district shifts these boundaries, they aren't just moving us to a different building. They are tearing apart the communities we have worked years to build. We are forced to leave behind the people who know our schools and the coaches who push us to be better. For all for the sake of administrative logic that don't actually improve our education. Unlimited schools should be helping students succeed, not making their lives harder. The time and energy lost to longer ride buses and mental strain of adjusting to a new school are resources that should be spent on our classes and our recovery. If the district really cared about our success, they would stop focusing on changing maps and start focusing on our students' environment stable. A student who is well rested and supported in their current community will always perform better than one who is constantly stressed by unnecessary forced changes. How can you say to our faces, you have millions of dollars but can't start little by little? If we can make ideas for you to hear us, I know dang right you can make ideas to bring us home. How do you want us to show the world what we got if you can't help us? Why are we children standing up like leaders while leaders are sitting down like children? We are skipping our lessons to teach you one. Less talk, more action. Once a shark, always a shark. May God bless us.
Zoe Atoy, and then after that is James. James Uher.
Test, may I start?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Zoe Atoigui and I'm the president of the Simon Sanchez class of 2028. I want you all to remember how this room looked from start to finish. And I can assure you that you didn't only just see sharks or titans here. You saw every single mascot. Because the decisions that you make can and will affect yet another school. As a shark, I have waited and been led on by empty promises. As my peers have mentioned, as students, staff, and faculty, we always have to be the one to adapt and adjust for actions that we never choose. Words cannot express how beyond thankful I am to have such a welcoming school community. So once again, I'd like to thank JFK and TDIN for welcoming Simon Sanchez and to Okudu for welcoming FBLG for these past few years, because it is not easy. Our staff has spent the entire summer working and moving from village to village, and it hurts to know that once again, we will have to move. We have heard that redistricting has been tossed around as an option, and I'm sorry, but we will not let that happen quietly. So when redistricting gets floated like it's simple, understand exactly what you're saying to us. You are not just cutting up a school, you are tearing apart a community that has given every single thing to survive this system. But on the bright side, because of this situation we're in right now, our future leaders and future board will know that this situation should never be considered as normal, and no community should have to leave their village just to be educated. Within this past year, I'm sure you guys saw how brave and resilient this generation is to continuously use our voice, and we think it's about time you listen to us. Rebuild Sanchez, because once again, actions speak louder than words. Thank you for your time.
Is James here? James? After James is Mayor Lizama.
Buenos días, everyone, teachers, faculty, parents, and staff. My name is James Iriwar, and I'm a student at John F. Kennedy High School, a senior, and I'm not only here to represent my school, but I'm also here to represent Sanchez and Tizen, as I've been hearing a lot about the news. Throughout the years, we've experienced multiple double sessions and many orders to redistrict schools. However, this situation is entirely different. Simon Sanchez High School has been an educational facility and/or organization for quite some time. To be specific, the school first opened as a middle school in 1974 and became a high school in 1981. Unfortunately, in 2023, the school was shut down temporarily by this institution due to, correct me if I'm wrong, severe structural damage from Typhoon Mawar. Additionally, just recently, Sanchez was shut down once again because their hosting campus, Tizen High School, was shut down by public health due to the unsanitary and unsafe conditions that were evident during the inspection. 50 demerits. 50 demerits. Tells us something, and that's the obvious. The facility wasn't properly maintained, which from a recent interview, it was Cortec who of which made the mistake of not tending to Tizen High. Correct me if I'm wrong with this one as well. And many questions were brought up from students that attended every school. For instance, some of the questions that I have heard are, how come Tizen hadn't received an inspection from public health during the summer? Why was the facility not maintained? And how have we been passing all of these health inspections for years on end with the condition of Tizen High School being in such bad shape? Furthermore, it's so outrageous that it's only been a few weeks into the school year and already there's problems showing up. Our educational system, board, and facilities are failing us students. All we can do as students is protest and advocate for change. It is now up to the Department of Education and the Board of Education to fix these problems and address concerns from parents and students alike. Madam Superintendent, it's time to step up, get things together, and focus on these problems to ensure the betterment of the youth's educational experience on Guam. Sizuos Maasi.
Thank you, James. Mayor Lizama.
Good afternoon. My name is Frances Lizama, Jigo Mayor. And although I'm not a Simon Sanchez alumni, my 5 children and my husband are. I have grandchildren who are future sharks. What scares me is that they will be here in this environment facing the same issues year after year after year. The children, the students, the faculty, and the staff come before you pleading for the school to be rebuilt. And yet here we are once again. There's a saying, give your employees the supplies and tools and they will do their job. The sharks are only asking for their home and have been asking year after year after year. In the 32nd legislature, you introduced a bill, Madam Superintendent, and this was regarding the rebuild of Sanchez. Months ago, you were in a meeting with other individuals regarding Simon Sanchez. People listen and people hear what you say. In that meeting, you said Simon Sanchez should not, I repeat, should not be rebuilt. I dare you to say that in front of these stakeholders today. This came from an individual who was in that same meeting as you were. And it really disappoints me that you sit there and you try to defend every decision that you've made. One, the closing of schools in the South without any consultation with any of the mayors or the stakeholders. Two, CFA into GW. Three, these kids, these students need their home. Madam Chairperson, I hope you're listening to me because it looks like you're in La La Land. It only goes to show how important the voices of these students are. I don't know what else these students, these stakeholders, these teachers, faculty, and staff have to get to say for something to be done. Decisions have been made that did not appease the stakeholders, and you made those decisions. With that, I'm asking the board, please request the resignation of this superintendent. Thank you.
Before we end public discussion, I just want to make sure, is Clarissa Perez here? She's not here. The only other person on here that did not testify is Dina, the Tizan parent, not here also. And then Keola Kenga, I was told is no longer here. So with that, Madam Chair, we have exhausted the list of people who have signed up for public participation.
Thank you, Dr. Okada. We appreciate the testimony. I would like to make a recommendation, if I may, that all the testimony today should also be shared with the Guam legislature. And the reason is because it requires them to appropriate the money to build the school. We've always supported building a new school for Simon Sanchez. Every school board that I know of the last 12 years has supported the construction of the new Simon Sanchez facility. The key to making that happen right now sits not with just us supporting it, but with the Guam legislature appropriating the funds to do it. My understanding is that in the current budget that is waiting the governor's signature, no funds were included for the construction of Simon Sanchez. So I'd like to encourage all of you here to please use the same passion that you've displayed here today before the Guam legislature. The funding is necessary, or a funding mechanism is necessary, whether it's a public-private partnership or an outright borrowing from the government of Guam to fund this construction of the school. But that has to come from the Guam legislature. And of course, we will do our best to continue to encourage them to provide the funding. Public Works is ready to put out another bid, but there has to be money behind it, or a funding mechanism to make it happen. We support your efforts, because I know that's what all of you would like to see. All of us here support that, and we've always supported that. But we don't appropriate the funds for that. That comes from the Guam legislature. with the support, of course, of the governor as well, in signing any appropriation action or mechanism for borrowing or public-private partnership into law requires legislation. I have faith in the legislature that they will respond, but I'd like to request my colleagues to please support transmitting all of this testimony that we have received today and sharing it with the Guam legislature. Dr. McNinch?
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Dr. McNinch had his hand up.
Who?
Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, the testimony that was read into the body, could we ask those persons to please transmit them to us, because they are a written document from another person?
If they have written copies, then we of course would like you to submit a copy.
I think they're reading from an email.
But if we don't have written copies, we're going to have to translate it, transcribe it, but we will make certain that it gets to the Guam legislature also. Yes, sir.
Pretty much in line with Dr. McNinch. Could we kindly, the testimonies that were made today, be provided to each and every one of the 15 senators? The sooner the better, and not wait until it's close to election. It's already pretty close, but we can still beat them. So please, let's get them. You know, I sat here listening. You know, at the in front of the school is the statue of Simon Sanchez. He's standing there, but if he was alive today, he will be in front of all of you and thanking JFK and thanking Deason for hosting them. But it can only go so far. And we're going to sit with the superintendent and come up with a resolution. We can't continue having this baseball game. Poor students at Sanchez, I'm trying to think, it reminds me of a baseball. First base, second base, third base. Now they want to go to home run, up in Jigo, not anywhere else. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, all of you. Yeah, and if I had that magic wand, I will build Simon Sanchez. During Guam graduation of Simon Sanchez at the field house, under the Calvo administration, they're up on the stage. Sharks, you will have a school in 4 years. Nothing. The Simon Sanchez student, because I was a board member, Mark Mignola was the chair, we were invited to a peaceful protest in the schoolyard. And they were calling out senators, sign that bill, sign that bill. And some of the senators are running for governor. Then the next administration came in. I was sitting up there. We invited the Simon Sanchez students. We had people there. Mary Lizama's daughter was one of them. And they were promised, we will build your school. We will build your school. The board we're not even involved in when there is a review of the contract or the RFP. We got an invitation. Come to the groundbreaking. I invited the iBox from Simon Sanchez, make sure, because they were double session at JFK. We get approval from your principal, come. Lord and behold, there was a protest. So for me, I'm telling you, if I had, I will And yes, this promise was way many years ago. I don't know, some of these are not sitting members at that time. My grandchildren, who are now 40 years old, are product of Simon Sanchez. And we have always advocated for Simon Sanchez. Because besides my grand, I had my great-grand, and still no building. So the administration and the legislature have to put out get going. Because some of you have people that are running for governorship, for lieutenant governor, and you were part of it. There are legislatures that continue to seek re-election. It is sad. It is sad. Because I advocate for you students. That's why when I saw this, I was sent an message about redistricting. Said, wait a minute, the board never discussed anything redistricting, and it's not going to happen. Because one of your former IBOCs, Andrea Ilani, who's now in Alaska, at the legislature, was asked by one of the senators, don't you want to be a gecko? Don't you want to be a titan? Don't you want to be an islander? Don't you want to be a bulldog? And I think that video is circulating, and she said, no, we still want to be a shark. Now, if all these people that are running for public office or incumbents, they talk about rebuilding, the administration is going out, no school. So is one of these two gubernatorial candidates, if they come in to be governor, are they going to really do something? I'm calling out for them, because they were in the legislature all that time. They were senators. But I will assure you, student of Simon Sanchez, because I stay up there and I know the place. I don't know, besides Vice Mayor and Mr. Torres, who stays up at Jigo. My family are from there. I am not running for the board in December. I end my term, but I will not, I promise you, I will not stop advocating to rebuild Simon Sanchez, and even if I have to come to this board to get people to be held accountable, I will be there. Because it is really sad. I feel for you. I feel for all of you. Because I have grandchildren that are going into Simon Sanchez, and they're never going to have a chance. So I call out the governor, the legislature, do something about it. Because like I say, if I had that magic wand, it would be our Simon Sanchez. But yes, it's been too long. It's been too long. And that's how long I have been on the board. We were promised Simon Sanchez. Yes, I heard about this. I heard about this, and it's in this room also. When the shoe fits, wear it. That Simon Sanchez schools should not be built. They should be redistricted. They should be redistricted. It was it. There are board members that are sitting here and make that comment. And I'll tell you guys later. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I tried to refrain from making any comment on the issue, but do you know, Mrs. Gutierrez, what board member ever made that statement not to build Simon Sanchez? I am the longest board member here. I have missed maybe one or two board meetings, but I've never heard one ever say not to build Sanchez. Can you tell me, don't give me a name, but just give me what board had made that comment?
I won't tell you, Mr. Ara. because I was insulted when they said that the sign is too big. We should just not build Simon Sanchez.
But
we should redistrict it.
My question is, what board made that comment? I am shocked to ever hear that statement ever made. Can you tell me?
Go back to the minutes if you want to find out.
Because I do not know, and that's why I'm asking you. Can you provide me or us just a number, but then we can figure it out? Mrs. Gutierrez?
Yeah. Even there was I received text it's circulating in a teacher's chat that the superintendent met with some members, I don't know what the members, and they're going to push for redistricting.
No, my question, Madam, I'm bothered for any board member to make that comment, and I don't want to drown anymore. Let's move on. We got other things we got to do. And I just want to make sure I put that statement out loud and clear. Thank you.
For the record, Madam Chairperson, I can vouch that I've never made that statement as a board member or even as a parent of Simon Sanchez.
Madam Chair, there is one other little thing. I keep saying build in other materials than concrete. So I say don't build in concrete. I don't say don't build anything. I say just build in other materials that allow air to flow through. And I hope that didn't get, just food for thought. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, our agenda is to go into executive session.
Madam Chair, we need to approve the superintendent's report.
Approve what?
The superintendent's
We need a
report.
motion to go into executive session.
We need to approve the superintendent's report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, can we move first to approve the superintendent's report? Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, before that happens, the last thing that I stated on the report was that based on the options that were given, is that we open the schools, Tijan and Simon Sanchez, and
Yes,
not
sir.
move forward
Yeah.
with redistricting or with any one of the other options.
That's right. So the superintendent's reaffirming that the goal is to reopen our Tijan two schools, Tijan High School and Simon Sanchez, as soon as possible. That's what we're looking at. All right, thank you. Can I hear a motion, please, to approve the superintendent's report, and then we'll move into executive session? We have motion and second, Dr. McNinch. Motion passes. Thank you. We're now going to go into executive session.
I would only approve 1 and 2, but not the 3.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, then
The
we'll
motion
know.
was for the report.
Voted
Ms.
no.
Gutierrez voted no. Okay.
Madam Chair, before we go into, can we take a 5 minutes recess before we
go
go into
ahead.
executive session, please?
Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor.
Okay, do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
Second.
All right, any objection? Motion passes. We're now in executive session.